Reception at basic training. This is the period before basic training even starts. It's like week 0. And many point out that this is one of the more miserable parts of the basic training experience. Why? Because it's several days of doing a whole lot of nothing and a whole lot of everything with very little sleep. This is like your first couple days in the Army experience. And it's for doing all sorts of random administrative tasks and getting your gear issued and some medical stuff too. So when I got there, I went to Fort Jackson, 120th reception, and after getting bused there, the first thing we did was go into a classroom for a shakedown to make sure we didn't have any unauthorized items, because this is where they gather all your stuff and put everything into a personal bag, anything that you can't have with you during basic training. And it was pretty chill. The drill sergeant was like, okay, anything that you're not supposed to have, just get rid of it now. If you don't get rid of it now, then it's going to be a problem. I think the only thing I had to get rid of was like some toothpaste or something. But I would recommend don't bring a whole lot, because anything that you need, you're going to get issued there at some point. So like bring like the clothes that you're wearing and maybe a toothbrush, and just don't bring anything else. That's also important because after you leave reception, after you leave basic training and graduate, and then you go to AIT, you have to carry all that stuff with you, like literally carry it on top of all the gear that you're going to get issued throughout your time there, which at minimum is going to be 2 full duffel bags and a rucksack, right? So that's why it's important, and you'll hear don't bring a lot, because anything that you bring, you literally have to carry with you. So after the shakedown, we go to another classroom. This is where we knock out more just like basic paperwork. Anytime you go to a new battalion, you got a whole bunch of like, disclosures and signatures and sign here and all that kind of stuff. So we do that. This is where we kind of got a rough game plan of like, day 1 you'll do this, day 2 you'll do this. We had a federal holiday in there because it was Jimmy Carter Memorial Day, and that kind of threw everything off. But essentially, in the next 3 to 5 days, you're going to do all your medical items, which is like you're going to get some shots, do a hearing test, vision. You might get some glasses if you need that. All your like admin for like banking information, making sure your banking information is correct so you can get paid, and then life insurance, health insurance, beneficiaries. You can make a life insurance election and all that kind of stuff, and then you get issued a fair amount of gear. You don't get all your gear right at the first time at reception. A few weeks later, you actually return to get more gear. Here, you'll just get your PT uniforms and your OCPs. That's the occupational camouflage patterns. So that's like the traditional Army uniform that you think of. You actually return, I think it was the first or second week, you go back, and that's where you get more stuff. You get more like the cold weather gear, wet weather gear, more items that you're going to be using out in the field. That's when you get the rucksack. You don't even get the rucksack right away. The only, you leave reception the first time, I think, with 1 duffel bag. At least that's how it was for us. And then actually week 5, you come back again, and that's when you get fitted for your AGSUs, and that's the dress uniform. But the first time you're there, that's really just to do all the admin stuff and to get issued just your basic set of gear. The first night, we even just got the PT uniforms and some hygiene items, basically just to just make it for that first night. It was a very early wake up. I think we got up at like 3 a.m. and then you just start the whole day. You do chow 3 times a day. That's a whole process because you're waiting outside, and it was cold in January. You wait out there for like 40 minutes for your turn to go inside and eat, and then you have to wait for all the rest of your platoon to get done. So that was a fun time. And you just had to do that 3 times a day. And then, it's just waiting for the whatever hit time you have next. Sometimes, and I can't say this is a certainty for everywhere, but because, they had to schedule it with like whatever civilian contractors or other employees have, their set times when they're ready to have us. If there was like a couple hours between, okay, we got done with doing our banking information and we have medical at like, this next time, and there's a couple hours, they would send us back to the barracks to conduct bay maintenance, which is, make sure your area is clean the latrines, all that kind of stuff. But, if that takes like 10 minutes, you could like sneak in a cat nap, and that was the best because you were fighting for your life to stay awake. I remember during the hearing test, I'm pretty sure I hallucinated because like the hearing test is literally the worst because not only is it a hard test, but it's literally a perfectly quiet environment and you haven't slept in like 3 days. Everyone was fighting to stay awake. So there's all sorts of stuff like that. And that's why most remember it as the time when like you just didn't get any sleep. Because once you get to basic training, like there's some early mornings, but you can usually count on getting at least 5 hours or so of sleep. Now it all changes if you have fire guard, and that's a whole other thing. But reception was the hard one because it's your first experience. You're literally the furthest point from the end, and you're just standing there all day waiting for your turn to do something, fighting for your life not to fall asleep. So if you can make it through that, that's usually a the rest is kind of gets more manageable from there. But those first few days of reception, yeah, most people will remember not getting any sleep.